welcome to Procurement Pivots, the podcast for procurement professionals wanting to navigate change successfully and create career success on your own terms. I'm Donna Bowden, procurement career coach and founder of Narrate Your Career.
And I'm Laura Sellers, executive coach for procurement and founder of Coaching for Procurement. And between us, we bring almost 25 years of supporting and working with procurement professionals. And it's fair to say we've navigated many of our own career pivots along the way. And now we're here to help you do the same.
Each episode will share practical strategies, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you confidently tackle the changes and challenges in your procurement career.
Let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to our latest episode of the Procurement Pivots podcast. We're excited as always to be here with all of you, and today we are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. And there's a reason why we've chosen this topic today, isn't there, Dora?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did a poll on LinkedIn to our company page followers, and this was a popular topic. I think 25% of the poll respondents wanted to hear something about this.
Yeah.
And it isn't something we've really covered or mentioned even in any previous episodes, I don't think. So definitely an interesting one because I think it's a very normal feeling, really. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I think it's interesting that we haven't mentioned it so far when you think about kind of day to day, like it feels like this term now, I don't know when it appeared, but it feels like it's being used all the time. I feel like I see it really, really regularly. Do you as well?
Yeah, I think it's easy to put a label on it whenever we feel out of our comfort zone or feel a bit afraid of something.
Mm.
And I mean, it's great that we hear a lot about it because it normalizes it, right?
Mm,
But how do we make it relevant and surmountable
yeah,
for the people that we help?
yeah. And I think we were talking just before coming onto this, before recording, that we do hear about it a lot. I mean, from a personal perspective, I'm not entirely kind of sure how I feel about it as a label, and
Mm.
it is a label. And you know, we've spoken about kind of labels in our identity episode. We did quite a lot on that actually about, sometimes we give ourselves labels or sometimes they're given to us. But I think we were discussing earlier, like actually, is it a helpful label or is it one that's quite damaging for you? What's your thoughts on that, Laura?
Yeah, like you say, we were having a brainstorm about the episode as we do with all of them, and we both talked about how we don't often refer to imposter syndrome in our content, even on LinkedIn, even though we know it's a topic that we talk about. And I think it's because labels, when we break them down, this particular one, we break it down, we can make it more manageable and very unique to each person. And for me, it comes down to um, we're trying something new and we're stepping into something new, and it's something that's normal, something that can be overcome. So yeah, as a label, I don't find it particularly helpful because I think it's a case of, oh, okay, that's what I've got, I'll always have it.
Mm,
Whereas it's a very transitional feeling.
yeah,
It's a very temporary feeling.
yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there for me. My concern with some people, actually, I know some people find it quite helpful to kind of name those feelings and those difficulties and those struggles. And it's like, okay, it's not just me. Other
Mm,
people are going through this too. But, I do worry that sometimes, some people now associate themselves as a person that really suffers with imposter syndrome and
mm,
therefore fine, that's just how I am. And it's kind of like, yeah, like you're talking about it as it's a really normal transitional feeling and emotion and experience when you are going through a period of change, whether that's a new role, a new situation. But actually, I wonder whether you identify, if you identify as, someone that suffers from that, are you prolonging that period of time where you feel like that? I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I think it is actually it's an interesting topic. But for me, I think it comes down to I don't really use that phrase, but actually what I do work with my clients on a lot is their self-belief and their confidence,
Mm.
particularly in different situations and often new situations. And that's a lot of the work I'm doing is about those new transitions, the pivots, the new job, the thinking about a new job, preparing for a new job in a new job. So yeah, it's my day-to-day language is more around those kind of self-belief and the confidence rather than putting the label on it.
But I think that that's really interesting what you've said there, because you know, this is where we do cross over. I work on the same things, confidence, self-belief, and I do work with emotions. I'm an emotions
Mm,
coach. I trained as that, and you said something that made me think, I've never thought about that before, because I would never um have thought about whether imposter syndrome was an emotion or a feeling. I see the label of imposter syndrome as a ball of lots of tangled up different emotions. And like what you've just said, you're working on confidence and self-belief.
mm,
And that's two of the things that might be tangled up in the
mm,
imposter syndrome label. So that's
yeah.
really interesting when you said that, because it gave me a bit of a light bulb moment, like, oh, yeah, because in the emotions coaching stuff I was doing, it is around we are not our emotions, they're not labels, but it is, like you just said, it's incredibly, and this is the other thing I wanted to pick up on what you said, it is incredibly helpful to label our emotions,
Mm,
right? And to name our emotions, to identify what they're feeling so that we can then transition through them and move through
mm,
them. That's where our resilience comes from. And maybe that's where you and I have that discomfort with imposter syndrome as a label, because we know there's so many other things underneath that we work
yeah,
on that's different.
yeah,
And imposter syndrome probably is a bit of a throw cover
yeah,
over all of these different things, when actually, no, rip the cover off.
yeah.
What's actually going on here? So I love what you said there. That was really that. Sorry, yeah, I had a in the moment light bulb on the
And I
podcast.
and I just had a really random thought. Um, I'm someone that historically suffered with IBS, stomach problems, and is
Okay.
imposter syndrome the equivalent of the IBS label? Because IBS, tomorrow's post on LinkedIn. Because that is really, it's like, oh, I've got IBS, but IBS is like the label that they give when they can't diagnose the stomach
Oh.
problem that you have, really. It's like, it's kind of, yeah, yeah, so now I'm like off on a tangent, but, um,
Can I just start? Yeah, if you don't put a post out on LinkedIn that has a hook saying, "Is imposter syndrome the new IBS?" I will be incredibly disappointed.
if I do or if I don't.
No, I want you to. I want you to. I think you'll be. I think it'll be. I'll be disappointed if you don't put that on there. That's a perfect hook. Imposter syndrome is the new IBS, or vice versa. But thank you. Like I didn't know that about IBS, so that's something learning for me today.
Anyway, I've now completely lost my train of thought. However, we did start like again being really honest and open. I said to Laura before when we were just brainstorming, I was like, there's a part of me that feels like a bit of an imposter talking about imposter syndrome just because I'm just not 100% sure how I feel about it as
Mm,
a phrase, as a thing. And actually, I think when I'm working with my clients, it's not necessarily it's not on the label, it's on
yeah.
my work it's really forward looking and it's kind of working on the things that they can do to help improve their confidence, their
Mm.
self-belief. And so we don't really actually clients might have referenced it sometimes on occasion, but actually we're talking more about confidence and beliefs. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to I want to pick on what you said there, and it's maybe going off a tangent, but that's something we've probably never mentioned on the podcast, is around the way coaching is about being forward looking, but also about knowing what's happening for you in the present, isn't it? And that's where I think it is really useful to be able to name the emotions that you're feeling and to
Mm,
understand. Now, whenever someone asks me what the difference is between coaching and therapy, for example, if we are talking about
yeah,
self-awareness and about things we've experienced, coaching is about the present moving into the future. But if we do refer to the past, we bring it back into the future about what's happening for us there. And
yeah,
one thing I do like to look into the past for, and we've maybe talked about this before about understanding where your strengths are, your successes that have
Yeah.
left clues. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, I'm getting there eventually. When it comes to imposter syndrome, what I like to draw a comparison with, and I may have mentioned this before, so apologies for repeating myself if that's the case, but when you first stepped into a procurement role and you didn't know a lot about your category or about procurement or about the organization, about how to handle and manage suppliers, there may have been feelings of imposter syndrome then, but look where you are now.
Yeah.
You know a lot more than you knew back then.
Yeah.
So I like to really normalize that imposter syndrome probably shows up a lot.
Mm,
Where I tend to find it happens more as you go up the ladder. I mean, I think as you go up the ladder, you give yourself less compassion for feeling
mm,
these things. And you think
yeah.
it's a bigger thing because when you first step into a new business, a new category, a new role, like a new profession like procurement, you are new. So
Mm,
you expect to not know it all. So
yeah.
there may be some imposter syndrome, but there's also the blindingly obvious um, fact that you are new. Whereas as we travel up the ladder and we go into leadership, so we've been promoted to be a leader,
Mm,
all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, I better not show them that I don't know what I'm doing, or I feel this imposter syndrome. We tend to give ourselves less grace because the stakes feel a bit higher
yeah.
because we're leading people, we're all of a sudden rubbing shoulders with people who are in the C-suite. And
Mm.
let me just state here, there are people in the C-suite who experience these feelings too.
Oh, absolutely.
Executive coaches exist for a reason,
Mm,
that this also happens. So I wonder whether the work is to also normalize it further up the ladder than just down below.
mm, yeah. And like from your perspective, sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, so feel free to not
This
answer.
happens a lot, Dana.
I think it's like a mean question, but feel free to bat
Not
it
at
back to
all.
me. But in you've pivoted a number of times in your career. So I was just curious to kind of ask, is this a feeling that you've experienced yourself, would you say?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Loads of times. Loads of times. I think and I'll bring out a model here. I think what was really helpful, it was shown to me in my coach training actually, that really helped all of us. I think that there's a model called um, conscious competence model, and I've shared it on LinkedIn before, I think, but I think it's really useful to remind yourself of when you experience it. So there are four dimensions to this four blocked grid. One is unconscious incompetence. So you
Yeah,
don't know what you're not good at. You don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
And we all have those elements. And
yeah,
then you've got the conscience incompetence. So that's when you start to realize what you don't know. So
yeah,
you're aware of what you don't
yeah.
know. And this is where imposter syndrome might start going, hi, hello, you don't know these things.
Yeah,
And then, as you become more experienced, you move into the next quadrant, which is the conscious competence. So you know what you
yeah,
don't know, and what you do know, you do reasonably well, but it might still take some practiced effort.
yeah,
Okay. And then the final one is unconscious competence. And that's
yeah,
where it is such a natural strength that you don't even
yeah,
realize you're doing it. It comes so easy to you. You
yeah,
assume it's easy to everybody.
yeah, yeah,
Now, you would think that that was the ideal place to be in with everything, but actually, we stunt our growth there as well if we don't start to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. So, whenever I talk about imposter syndrome with anyone, and I refer to this model and I say, you're just in the conscious incompetence
yeah, yeah,
stage of the model. That's what
yeah.
this is.
Yeah, and I remember I can't, it was years ago when I first heard about that. And actually, they gave the kind of example of when you learn to drive. And, actually, that first stage, you don't know anything, but you don't know what you don't know. And it's kind of like, the blunders that you're making in those first three driving lessons, you sort of like almost don't even know. And then you do realize you're like, ah, but then like when you look at the end of the spectrum, actually you've been driving for a number of years and you drive so much on autopilot that
Mm.
sometimes you don't even remember like part of that journey because you've just done it so
Mm.
easily without thinking about it. And it's kind
Yeah.
of, it was just such a nice way of like really visualizing that kind of that model. Um, so yeah, you've
Yeah.
just mentioned comfort zone. Like I think, we need to talk about comfort zone, don't we? Kind of, in reference to this topic. And I know we've referenced it, I think, in a number of times in previous episodes. But yeah, that feeling really uncomfortable in what we do, like it's not always a nice feeling, but if we want progress and if we want growth, like we almost need to we need to step outside of
Mm.
that comfort zone if we want to move forward and if we want progression. And really, I think yeah, that really is kind of what this is. It's kind of, imposter syndrome. It's you it's a different label for you're out of your comfort zone. You're in a,
Mm.
potentially a new scenario, but not always a new scenario. And you just, yeah, you're doing something that isn't yet in that comfort zone.
Mm. And do you know what's really interesting there as well? When we talk about how often when our clients come to us, they feel stuck, is being stuck is sometimes a sign of being too much in your comfort zone, that you're not stretching yourself enough, that actually what you need is to stretch. So
Yeah.
when you, and I think as well, a great example I like to use about when it comes to going out of your comfort zone, if you think about being more vocal in a meeting or or
Mm,
public speaking, I think I've brought this up in a previous
mm,
episode, but there's talking on a stage in front of hundreds of people, which is really in the fear zone.
yeah.
You're not looking to step into that fear zone. It's too much in the deep end, right? You want to be
Yeah.
looking at something that's in the sweet spot just outside of the comfort zone, where
Yeah.
it is a small step. And that's where the help of a coach or someone who really champions you can really help.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I mean, even using my own example, I put you on the spot before about kind of if you
Yeah,
felt this
me too,
way, but
same.
but yeah, I mean, I think this whole past 18 months, there's been multiple points over that time frame where actually it's been a bit like, oh, can
Mm.
I? Even I think, a few things. I think I recognised I was having conversations with actually some kind of people in my network, other business owners, and I realised that I'd labelled myself as new. I'm so I kept in my introductions, I kept saying, I've just set up my business, I'm new. And I think actually this was like a label that I'd given to myself. I'm new. It's a new business. I've just recently started working as a career coach, but actually, like that new label wasn't serving me well because
Mm.
that was kind of almost knocking my confidence.
Mm.
Like, and I just a total it was just like one of those light bulb moments for me. It's like,
Mm.
hang on, I am not new. Like, I've been helping people in their careers since the year 2000. I've been
Mm.
a hiring manager probably, from a year after that. And I have supported people at all levels for such a long time. I am not new. Like, I've been coaching heads of procurement, informally for such a long time. But yet this like, and I think it was within, I think, my first 4 or 5 months of launching the business, like, and I was just like, I was at a networking event actually, and this is like how I realized, like, I just realized that I was introducing myself to these people as new. That's my
Mm.
status. I'm a new business owner. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like actually recognizing that all this work that I'm doing now is off the back of all the work I've been doing,
Yes.
for such a long time. And my new label of career coach, like it's a new, and it is a new business, but actually that wasn't serving me, like
Mm.
introducing myself as new. And so since then, very rarely do I include that. And obviously the longer it goes on, I can't claim to be new anymore anyway. But I think, that was quite a realization for me,
Mm.
actually, that, you know, because I think there was a nervousness, like, there aren't lots of career coaches in this space currently. Other markets are quite advanced, and you look at finance, you look at other areas, like you get a lot of career coaches that specialize to that profession. And it's not yet a I don't think it's yet a big thing. And so yeah, I think there was like an element of, can I, like, should I, how will people perceive that? That I've definitely moved on from now. But initially it was a real, yeah, I think I was attaching kind of almost labels to myself that definitely weren't helpful.
That's really interesting because I think that's something that would have been a good topic on the self-employment one, actually, because this thing around starting from scratch, if you're starting a
Mm,
new phase of your career, you're
yeah,
starting a new organization, you're starting in self-employment, you might be starting a new category. There's this element of, oh, I'm new, but
yeah,
nobody starts from scratch. And I remember,
yeah,
I mean, I've been working in the world of work for 20 years now, oh my word, 20 years. And you would think that what you did 20 years ago, 15 years ago is not relevant to what you do now. And it is absolutely relevant because your strengths are like an invisible string. They're all the
mm,
way through. And I think that's something that we need to make sure as we're building the self-belief and the
yeah,
confidence in our clients to take a step forward, that they already have a toolkit
yeah,
that is already serving them. It's just serving them in a different context.
mm, yeah, definitely. And actually, if it is whatever the scenario is, if you've been promoted into that new role, or you've started in a new role, or suddenly you're being invited to those leadership meetings that you
Mm,
haven't gone to before, the reason you're there is because you deserve to be there, and you should
yeah.
be there, and people want you there, and
Mm.
you're there because of what you've done up to that point. It's
Yeah,
not like magically you've just, puff of smoke, I'm here. It's like all of that prior work has got you to that point, and you belong there. um
absolutely.
and yes, it's uncomfortable initially. And yes, it can feel intimidating, especially if you feel like, I know I've spoken to people, and suddenly they're allowed to go to they're invited to the leadership meetings, but they feel like there's a big gap between them as
Mm.
like an entry level leader and all of these like perceived really senior leaders that know their stuff and know what they're doing, etc. And yeah, there is a reason. Like, what is that reason? I think, actually, I mean, I thought it was probably useful for us to come on to that. You mentioned toolkit. Like, actually just be kind to yourself and make sure that you're really clear on those prior successes and wins and achievements, and constantly remind yourself of those things, like, because often I think we can cling on to the challenges and the negative moments, and we don't, again, celebrate the small wins and successes
Mm.
along the way. And if you're not celebrating them and recognizing them, you don't remember them. And if you don't remember them, it's almost like they didn't happen. And you
Yeah.
kind of, I think it's like, different ways of recollecting those things work for different people. But really, it is good to have some kind of method or process or system for ensuring that you can keep those positives to the forefront of your own mind, and then think about how you can share them with others as part of your credibility building with other people.
Yeah. There's so many good threads to pull out there with that because I think it is around knowing that you are already competent at many things. You're just stepping into a new phase of your career, a new role,
Yeah.
whatever it is, that transitional moment that we talk about, that we help our clients with. And just remembering that those are part of who you are and how you do your job. Success leaves clues. I know I've said that before. I'm going to get my little metaphor bell out again,
Oh
but
yeah,
like,
ding
yeah,
ding ding.
ding. But I think it's just so important on those little wins because when we are of a particular mindset, we've all got the negative voices. Some of them speak loudly than others. I have one. I won't tell you what I call it, but it's
Oh,
around
I'd
the
like to
talking.
know.
I'll tell you
Tell me
offline.
after.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that that personal toolkit is very unique to you, and
Mm,
it will help you to step into the next stage of your career, out of your comfort
yeah,
zone, and then the new thing becomes your comfort zone.
yeah.
And so it is important to do that work for yourself. What works for somebody else might not work
Mm,
for you, but sharing that you have done that personal toolkit work, that work on yourself can inspire other people to do the same for themselves. And it's about appreciating that everybody's has different strengths, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that just I think I may have mentioned feedback in there, but I think that that was a point I just wanted to kind of, pull out. I think a lot of people don't ask for feedback maybe as much as they could, would be my
Mm,
observation. And quite a few of the clients that I've worked with, sometimes they don't actually have any idea of what that kind of that real external perception is of them. And kind of then when we do some work, and actually sometimes they will go and ask the questions and ask for feedback, like having that feedback can be so valuable, from a
mm,
confidence perspective. Like some of my clients actually, even when it comes to them, like, with a lot of them, we're working on what is their story that they
mm,
are sharing with people internally, externally. And actually that feedback can be such a nice way of building that story.
mm.
The kind of, the feedback that you consistently get that you're really
Yeah.
proud of, like that's so valuable. That's so valuable. And in a world where social proof is everything these days, like,
Mm.
it's really rare to book a restaurant without looking at reviews, or
Yeah.
holidays. Like, we're just used to having ratings and feedback as a matter of course. And so kind of gaining that feedback can just be so valuable for us as individuals to then learn from. The good feedback, great, it's confidence boosting.
Mm.
Even, the not so good feedback, the constructive feedback, like that's where the growth opportunity is as well, to learn from what could be done better. So I think just, particularly today, we're talking about that confidence and, how can you develop that self-belief and that confidence, and sometimes using feedback as a mechanism for, gaining positive feedback, and then also working out how could you share some of that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a part of recognition is definitely a part of what we need to build our confidence and
Definitely.
knowing how to frame things for learning opportunities and to what reinforces our competence in what we do. So it's definitely something that helps us stepping out of the imposter
Yeah.
syndrome, really.
Yeah.
So biggest takeaway from this one then, Donna, what would you say?
I think I still don't know how I feel about it as a
Mm,
label, but I think my biggest takeaway would just be to normalize those feelings,
yeah.
and, actually almost like it is also a bit of a sign, like a positive sign, that you're probably in some kind of transition as well. And it's almost like, there could be a total reframe of like, oh, I'm a bit uncomfortable. That's probably good, because it's probably a sign that some form of growth is about to happen, is happening currently.
Mm.
And yeah, I think yeah, it's just so normal. Like we all feel this, like, and yeah, we feel it because we're growing. So actually, let's embrace it.
Yeah, growth is such a great thing to go through when you're on the other side of it. It doesn't always feel great in the middle, but I would pick up on the same thing that you say that the normalizing that this imposter syndrome, there's a lot of feelings that are underneath that are unique to us all. So is it fear? Is it is it something else? Is it I don't know, like disgust is actually one that came up for a client the other day,
Oh,
feeling disgusted by some elements of what it was they were trying to do because it wasn't aligned with what they wanted to do. So there's a
okay.
lot of emotions that sit under that imposter syndrome and making sure it's
Oh,
aligned. So yeah, so that's why it's
that's
important to identify the individual emotions that sit underneath imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's an interesting one actually, because
Mm.
yeah, I've had a lot of conversations recently about people feeling really that, actually, like, we talk about values a lot, don't we, in our work on these episodes, and feeling like you're in an environment where there is alignment with your own values and the company values, like that is so important. And so that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of the imposter syndrome label, because you're acting outside of, you're not aligned with your own values, and actually, that's not comfortable, because you can't be the real you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just around imposter syndrome's a label. Let's delve into it a bit more about what's actually going on because it might not be that.
Yeah,
It might be something else, and that's what we can help to actually transition you out of. But it's temporary. As a feeling, it's
mm,
temporary. And you're in a place, like you say, of change and transition. So
yeah.
yeah, there we go.
Okay, so thank you once again, everyone, for joining us, watching, listening. Yeah, it's great to have all of you here, and we're really enjoying getting the feedback from all of you. So please, please keep that coming.
Yeah,
And
keep
why
reaching
don't
out.
you share, like, actually, is this something that you're experiencing? Is it something you've experienced in the past? And should we ditch the label? Should we keep it? Like, what do we
Mm,
think? Let us know. But
yeah.
yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, please get in touch. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Procurement Pivots. We hope today's episode gave you actionable tips to help you to continue to move forward in your procurement career.
If you enjoyed the conversation, follow our episodes, share them with others, and please support us on our social media channels for others that might be interested to tune in.